Okay. So we're going to talk about writing, in this course, we're going to write a bunch of automation tools. And we're going to start fairly easy. Not trying to reinvent or solve the world's problems, because, we're going to kind of ease into it a little bit. But I'm going to kind of give you an overview of the travel hacking industry today, so you kind of have the idea of the world that we're going to be writing automation tools around. Okay? How many of you have heard the phrase travel hacking before? Okay, well, you've heard it from me. Okay. Nobody else has heard of travel hacking? Okay. Okay, so what do you know about travel hacking?
It's an attempt to get or go places for, in effect, cheap, free, or for less cost than you could.
Okay, yeah, so fair enough. So strategies to travel wherever you want, however you want, for next to free is kind of the idea. So last semester I flew to India. School paid for my hotel and stuff there, but I flew round trip first class to India for $9. I just got back from a 2-week cruise in the Caribbean, and the cruise plus the flight cost me, I think, like $30 total. Because a lot of times, whenever there's money involved, it's almost always, it'll kick back on in a second, it's almost always related to some kind of like fuel surcharge or port fees or something like that. The trip itself is almost always free. The idea is, I'm flying to, sometime in May, I'm going to Sao Paulo, Brazil. And I'm flying Air Canada, and that trip I think is like $3 round trip first class. So, punchline is I'm going to tell you a little bit about how travel hacking works. Okay, now how many of you are willing to do an incredibly illegal thing? Okay, I wasn't able to dig a big enough hole into the bank. So we're going to need to pick whoever's the smallest, and you're going to go in first. 100% legal. 100%, no problem, not stealing from anybody, blah, blah, blah. All right, so travel hacking is the art of leveraging multiple systems in an effort to travel the world for free, or almost free. Like I said, a lot of times this is... when you have to pay some money, it's for like some surcharge or something like that. Like if you book Southwest, for example, several of you mentioned that you have flown Southwest. If you use points, for example, to book a flight on Southwest, sometimes the flight might be 22,000 points plus $8. The $8 is for some fuel surcharge that the points can't be used for. But actually, if you don't want to spend the $8, then you have flexible points from some other credit cards that you can use to pay for those fees. So you could actually make it completely free if you wanted to. All right, so similar, stay in 5-star hotels for a week or more, completely free. So cool stuff, right? Intriguing. All right, so how do we accomplish this? Well, core components of this are reward points, usually from credit cards. All right, so there's a zillion different credit cards out there. How many of you in here have a credit card? Okay, how many of you have a credit card with an annual fee? A couple people. All right, so when I was younger, and typically I think the mentality of just people in general, not just young people, is why am I going to pay a fee on a credit card? Because that's why should I pay them so I can, put money on a card, right? Typically, cards that have fees on them have better perks, better benefits, and things like that. Okay? Now, the idea is that some credit cards, when you sign up for them and you spend a certain amount of money in the first 3 months, you get some giant windfall of points. Okay, so you might get a card and you spend $1,000 in the first 3 months and you get 50,000 points in whatever their system is. Okay, and 50,000 points gets you something. Okay, Now, the reality is when you're flying, like let's take that flight that I mentioned from Milwaukee to Brazil. So that flight in first class round trip is about 120,000 points, is what that flight will cost me in points. So that means that if you don't want to spend money, it's about a $9,000 flight. If you don't want to spend money, you got to figure out a way to get 120,000 points. Okay, makes sense? So part of the travel hacking industry is how do you earn points? And there's a bunch of strategies with that, but most of them are get credit cards, hit the minimum spend, get the points, and then move on to the next credit card that you're working on the minimum spend for. And what's interesting is by accident, you'll also have your credit score go way up by having all these credit cards. Because one of the main things your credit score is based on is your debt to credit ratio. So how much you owe on credit cards compared to the amount of total credit you have available to you. Yeah.
So that's a question, because my brother does the same thing, and I always say, well, Luke, if you close down these lines of credit, your credit
don't close
scores,
them. Can't close them.
Yeah, so that's what I thought. So you always have to maintain the credit lines that you have.
Yeah. So you end up having, if you have so I have something like, 25 or 26 cards. So across all these cards, it's millions and millions of dollars of credit, right? But at any point in time, I'm only using 1 or 2 cards per month. And I'm a pretty big spender, so maybe I have a balance on across my cards of maybe $5,000 or $6,000. And I always pay it off at the end of each month. But $5,000 or $6,000 in debt relative to millions of available credit has a very low ratio, right? So I'm using 0.02% of my available credit. So, my credit score is 840. It looks great. And I think you told me you just got a card and your credit score went up by 100 in less than a month, something like that. That's the first card. so that's the first card. Now, some disclaimers, first of all. Okay, I am not giving you financial advice. I'm telling you how to play this game if you want to, be an adult and play treat it like a video game. Never carry a balance in your credit card. If you're somebody who's going to put money on a credit card and carry a balance, travel hacking does not work. You will lose money. It doesn't work that way. The idea is put money on a credit card, pay off the credit card, get zillions of points, rinse, lather, repeat. That's the punchline. Okay? So, for example, just earlier today, I got a new card in the mail. I have to hit 5,000 on that in 3 months, and I get 80,000 points from that one. So that's basically a round trip first class ticket to anywhere from here to Europe or something like that. But you just stack these points up, and there's different point categories and things like that. Go ahead.
Aren't you gonna run out of every time, usually it's when you first open a credit card, right? Did you get the bonus, the points?
Yep.
So are you gonna run out of credit cards and keep opening?
Well, possibly, but you have to be strategic about it. That's part of what the kind of the thing is. And I'm not going to go into all the details. I have some tricks. Okay, and we're going to look at how to automate it at the top level. But generally speaking, the most valuable points are Chase Ultimate Reward points. I think those are probably the best points to have. Chase is also probably the strictest for giving credit cards. Chase has a rule called 524, where if you have 5 new credit cards in the last 24 months, they won't approve a new credit card for you. And it doesn't have to be just Chase cards, any new lines of credit on your credit score. So that means you want to get Chase cards first. Now, you also can't get more than 1 card in the same category. So if you go to Chase, Chase has their Sapphire card. Well, they have 3 different versions of the Sapphire card. They have the Sapphire Poor, Sapphire Normal, Sapphire Rich. I think the rich one's called Reserve. It's $600 a year fee for that card. But you get all these perks with that card. So that's my main card that I always use. I don't get rid of. So when I'm not working towards a minimum spend or something like that, I'm always using my Chase Sapphire Reserve. So I keep that card active because it gives me access to all the first class lounges and a bunch of other travel perks that it pays for itself, that card. But as a Sapphire Reserve holder, I can't go and get a Sapphire Preferred because I already have a Sapphire card. So I would have to go and get one of Chase's other cards. Kind of make sense? All right. Now, as you're saying, well, what if you run out of cards? So realistically, in Chase's world, you could get a Sapphire card. You could get this one of their Southwest cards, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. Those are pretty powerful right now, especially. Then you could, they have some cards that give you like Hilton points and American Airlines points. Those are garbage. You don't want those unless you're just desperate. But what you could do is you can go and get business credit cards, even as an individual. If you could consult on something, all of us are technology people, we can set up routers for people or give them some, help them buy their next iPad. So you can establish a legal LLC, or you can just be a sole proprietor. You can apply for a business credit card and get one of those cards. So for instance, the card I just got in today was the Chase Business Inc. card, which you spend $5,000 in the first 3 months and you get 80,000 points. All right. So some of the things that might be going through your mind right now is like, okay, well, how am I going to spend $5,000 in 3 months? Okay. Or if I have 5 different cards and each one needs $5,000, how do I spend $25,000 in 3 months, or whatever it is? So there's various ways you can hit minimum spends and things like that. And we'll only talk about a little bit of it. And new things will come out throughout the semester, because we're going to be looking at some of the basic things first. But I will show you a pretty cool thing today. Go ahead.
You kind of said this before, but how many credit cards can you have before it starts hurting you?
I don't think it would ever start hurting your credit score unless, as he said, if you shut down a credit line. So let's say you have a credit card and you just cancel that card. That's now a reduction of your total available credit. So that could hurt your credit score. Now, realistically, if you have $20 million in available credit across all these cards, and at any point in time you have a $4,000 or $5,000 balance, depending on when they grab your balance during the month, your debt to credit ratio is still going to be really, really low. So it probably wouldn't affect your credit score too much. But if you just start shutting down all these old cards that you used to have, and all of a sudden a balance of $2,000 or $3,000 is becomes a 20 or 30 or 40% chunk of your available credit, now your credit score will be impacted. It won't be horrible. It's not like it's going to go to 400. It'll probably be high 700s or something like that instead of in the mid 800s or mid to low 800s.
So if you have to cancel one, do you cancel like one at a time?
Probably, but you probably would never cancel a card. So I have cards that I've had for years. So the only time that you might consider canceling a card is, so like we mentioned, some of these cards have minimums, have yearly annual fees, right? A lot of the cards now, you're locked into the annual fee the first year. Some cards do offer it's a $95 annual fee, but it's waived the first year, for example, all right? Usually what you can do is if the fee is less than $100, you can call a couple days before the fee would get renewed the next year and ask, say, hey, I'm really thinking about not keeping this card. Is there a lesser card I can drop down to that doesn't have an annual fee? And sometimes there is, because if you've already gotten your bonus, just drop down to the next card down that doesn't have a fee. You're not losing the credit line, you just lose the perks of that card, but you already got your 50,000 points, okay? But more times than not, what they'll do is they'll just waive the fee. They'll put it on your account as a credit. So now you'll have a free $95 in your account, so buy a couple of tanks of gas or something like that, and you got free gas for the $95 that was put on there, because they'll credit back that annual fee. Because they'd rather have you as a customer. So usually you're not in a situation where you have to close down credit cards. You either downgrade the card to a no annual fee version of itself, or you get them to waive the annual fee. These are all, but keep in mind, this is a system that requires some kind of, maintenance. You got to be willing to do this, the little, 20 times a year, make a phone call and say, hey, I want the annual fee waived, or, I'm thinking about getting a different card. And they're not going to do that for premium cards. So like my Chase Sapphire Reserve that has a $600 annual fee, they're going to laugh at me if I say I want you to waive the $600 annual. They're not going to do that. That's not what the purpose of that card is, not to be waived. That's like their high-end travel card that gives me some really good perks and it pays for itself. I'm not worried about that card. It's these extra cards that I would go and get just for points that have a $95 fee on it that Sure, I'll pay it the first year because I'm getting 70,000 points out of you. Okay, but I don't want to keep paying that fee, but I also don't want to shut down a credit line. So I'm either going to get the fee waived or I'll just downgrade the card to the lowest level that doesn't have an annual fee. One of the two. That way you're not cutting down your credit lines, and you just put it in a sock drawer or something like that. One thing you might do, this is a side strategy, before you, maybe a couple of months leading up to calling to get your annual fee credited back or whatever, start spending a little bit on that card, get gas a couple of times, go out to dinner or whatever, that kind of stuff, just so the card looks like it's active. That way you have a little bit of a leg to stand on when you're like, look, I don't use your card, give me the annual fee back. 95% of the time, they'll credit back any annual fee that's under $100. It's kind of the punchline. And if they don't, there's almost always a lesser card in that same family of cards that doesn't have an annual fee. You just lose the perks. So for instance, the Southwest cards, there's a baseline one that you don't get any anniversary Southwest points, and you don't get any Southwest credit, and like $50 in travel credit that you could use on the flights and that kind of stuff. So you don't get any perks, but that credit line is still open. Makes sense. You paid your $95 the first year, you got your 60,000 points, and now you just move on with life. Okay, and you move on to the next card. So now you were asking the question is, what if I run out of cards? Now, so depending on your situation, there are some really cool things you can do, especially for married people. Because a credit card is linked to, again, I'm not giving financial advice here. Okay? I'm talking about systems. Okay, so I'm just telling you how the system works. Okay, a credit card is linked to your Social Security number. So for instance, our Sapphire Reserve card is linked to my Social Security number. My wife is an authorized user on the card. I can then go get one of the Sapphire Preferred cards, for example. Even though it's in the same family, I can't get it under my Social Security number, but I can apply for it with her Social Security number. And she can get that card. And that's completely legitimate. There's nothing illegal about it. They don't even care. They want multiple people to have that card. So that's completely a legitimate thing. And then she can pool her points into mine if I want to have them all in the same thing. Although that's not all that important, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But generally speaking, each Social Security number can apply for the same card separately. Similarly, when you apply for business cards can be applied for. The easiest way to get approved for a business card is if you do have an employee identification number, an EIN number with an LLC. But you don't need one. You can do it as a sole proprietor. But regardless of whether you're applying for the business card with an employee identification number or you're applying for it as a sole proprietor, you will have to attach an actual person's Social Security number, whoever is the owner of the business. So I have my business that has an LLC, an EIN number, and then when I apply for those business cards, I apply with my EIN number with my business's EIN number and my Social Security number, so it reflects on my credit score for whether you're approved. And then my wife has a business, so those cards are applied for with her EIN number and her Social Security number. So now you have a bigger pool of cards available to you, and you also have a bigger pool of people who can play the game if you're married. Make sense? All right, so and usually the let's call it the statute of limitations is 24 months. So once you've had a card, so let's say you have a Chase Sapphire Preferred card, 24 months later you can apply and get that same card again. What you would probably do is you would downgrade that card to some non-Sapphire product or have to close that line maybe if you're actually going to get a new version of the card. You'd lose a credit limit, then you'd add one right back on. So you'd probably close that card, then apply for that same card again. But because it's 24 months later, you can get the sign-up bonus again. So you only have to wait 2 years between sign-up bonuses for the same product for the same Social Security number for personal cards, as well as for business cards. You can double dip.
So even if it hurts your credit because you're losing that credit limit,
You'll get it right back when you get the new card. So it won't really hurt your card. You just don't want to close a whole bunch of lines at once. Yeah.
Pay off your debt before you do. So
Um,
the ratio stays the same.
Well, yeah, but the idea is if you have a zillion cards, I mean, you have to be really, really. There's no reason why you should ever have greater than anywhere greater than 1%. If you're doing travel hacking, you should never have more than 1% of debt to credit ratio, because the amount of credit they've given to you should be just gigantic. Even if you're not a high income person, if you add up the credit limit they give you across 25 or 30 cards, that's going to be a pretty big number relative to what you're likely to spend in a month. See what I'm saying? Because they all add up. It's just a pool of credit. So this is kind of the game. So, forget about how you apply for the cards and how you get the things and stuff like that. What we want to think about in here is one of our goals as somebody who wants to travel hack is we need to collect big pools of points, one way or another. Make sense? We want points. And one of the best ways to get points is through the sign-up bonuses for credit cards. Now, the next thing is find the best travel deals. And this is where things get a little bit, so kind of the mechanics of the industry is this. Credit cards are willing to give big point bonuses for several reasons. One, most people, so let's say, if you have 10 people who go and get a credit card that gives a 50,000 point bonus, most people never use those points. They don't even know they were there. Okay? The people that do use those points, a high percentage of the time, turn them into cash. They just redeem their 50,000 points for $500 in cash. That is the worst thing you can do with those points, unless you're never going to travel. If you're never going to travel, take the cash. Okay? But if you're going to travel, never turn it into cash. If you're getting one penny per point, you're doing it wrong. That's the wrong. You're not doing it right. Now, Chase Ultimate Rewards has their portal. And like with a Chase Sapphire Reserve card, every one of my points counts as 1.5 points within their portal. Now, even if I earn points from a different card that doesn't get me 1.5, I can pool it into my Chase Reserve account, and now it's worth 1.5. Okay, but even that is a fake out, because what they're trying to get you to do is they want you to use those points inside of their portal, booking a hotel, booking an airline within the portal. Now, sometimes you'll get a pretty good deal. Sometimes. 9 out of 10 times or more. Inside the portal, what they do is the prices get jacked up a little bit for the flight. You're getting what would be a reasonable deal compared to paying cash for the flight, but you're not getting anywhere near the deal you would get if you transfer your Chase Ultimate Reward points away from their portal into an actual airline. Okay? So, for example, I mentioned that flight to Brazil. I don't remember the exact numbers, but let's call it roughly a $9,000 ticket. Was that first class ticket round trip from Milwaukee? Well, it went Milwaukee to Toronto, Toronto to Sao Paulo, Brazil. So I'm sure the flight from Milwaukee to Toronto, I'd be in business class on a normal regional airplane or something like that. So good leg room, but not lay flat and giving me champagne and stuff. Okay, but the longer flight from Toronto to Brazil is going to be a pretty good flight. Okay, that's where you can lay flat on the seat. They're coming around. They give you a hot towel after takeoff. You're supposed to use that before I take it. You're like, oh, thank you. I'm not even kidding. Not even kidding. It is actually pretty funny. When they're making those announcements, seats, put your seat backs up and stuff like that. You can see them making the announcement, but they'll point to the people and first no, that's not for you.
What? Oh my
No,
god.
It's pretty good. It is pretty legit. Okay, so in any case, that particular flight, I think if I were to pay cash for that flight, it would be about a $9,000 ticket, ballparky, something like that. I'm doing the flight for I think it was maybe 110,000 points. Okay, so if you take 110,000 and divide it by 9,000, I'm getting way more than 1 penny per point, right? Way more. So you're getting a multiplier that is way, way, way higher than if I had booked inside of Chase's portal. So your best deals are when you take an airline and you transfer out to, so like Chase Ultimate Rewards has a, they have transfer partners where I can transfer 60,000 points from my Chase Ultimate Rewards to United Airways. 60,000 points. It's a 1-to-1 transfer. I'll put the video up so you're good. Drive safe. So it's it's a 1-to-1 thing, but now I can leverage those good deals because there's reward fares on these airlines where instead of paying, $4,500 each way, you can get that flight for, 60,000 points. Well, 60,000 points is actually at 1 penny per is $600. So $600 for a $4,500 flight, a pretty good deal. So you don't want to turn that into cash. You don't want to turn your 60,000 points into $600. You'd rather get a $4,500 plane ticket, assuming you're going to travel. If you're not a traveler, then this stuff doesn't really help you. Okay, so one of the skills that the travel hacker has to do is learn how to find the best travel deals. And this involves a lot of kind of research. You got to look at all the different airlines. So going back to that Brazil flight, I told you I'm flying Air Canada. I'm not booking with Air Canada. I'm actually transferring points from Chase Ultimate Rewards to Singapore Airlines, booking the flight using Singapore Airlines. You can't do it online though, you have to call. But I'm not going to call Singapore because they're not going to speak English. So I'm actually going to call their Australian hub. So I call Singapore Airlines in Australia, have them book me an Air Canada flight with Singapore Airline points. Because it's cheaper to do that than me to transfer points to Air Canada and use points through Air Canada. Singapore Airlines points are worth more. Okay, so it's that kind of thing you have to do as a travel hacker. You got to kind of find out what's the, what are the little zigzags and things like that you have to go through in order to get the flight at the cheapest rate. Okay, and I'm instead of calling Singapore, I'm calling Brisbane.
Question: how did you figure this out?
Well, so for a while I was kind of researching this online, watching YouTube videos and stuff like that. And then I kind of became an enthusiast, and then I started writing tools myself to kind of automate some of these things. Because, for instance, I kind of have my go-to moves, like I'll go to this site first, and I'll go to this site, and I'll go to this site, and you start comparing the points, and you kind of write a little grid down, like, okay, the best I found so far is this, and, this kind of stuff, but it's very tedious, and so I talk to I'm part of an online mastermind group for travel hackers where we share each other, share our secrets with each other, and stuff like that, and we learn new things, so it's like a private Facebook group that we talk on. But a lot of it's trial and error, and then it's also kind of keeping up with the changes. So a lot of times, the banks or the credit cards, they'll change their way their programs work. So like years ago, like over a decade ago, you might have had a card that if you spent, you made one purchase on the card, you got 30,000 points. Well, those don't exist. Those don't exist anymore. Because then you would just get a card and go and buy a milkshake. And now you have 30,000 points. And then you also had something back then called churning, where you could actually apply for the same card over and over and over and over again. You would have different credit card numbers, but you'd have 25 Sapphire preferred cards. Each of them, if you make one purchase, you get 30,000 points. So, it was problematic. So, you have to kind of be able to move with the changes and also keep some of the secrets kind of close to your chest, because if these things get published or something like that, something like not this high level thing. So I'm talking to you about high level stuff here. Like, here's the idea, but like, how do you get the best of the best of the best, and how do you hit a $5,000 minimum spend without actually spending $5,000? That kind of stuff. All right, so, but it's a systems thing, and I'm a systems guy. I like looking at things and figuring out little intricacies or weaknesses. It's almost like an ethical hacking type thing, where you're looking at how can I take this system and figure out how to turn it to my advantage, something like that. Okay. So find the best travel deals. This involves using a whole bunch of online tools that, as a human being, we can use manually, right? No problem. Let me give you an example of something that I did recently. This is related to Southwest Airlines. Southwest Airlines has this thing called the Companion Pass. And the Companion Pass, the way it works is you either, in a single calendar year, if you take 100 flights with Southwest, you can get the Companion Pass. Or if you earn 110,000 rapid reward miles with Southwest in a calendar year, you can get the Companion Pass. And the way the Companion Pass works is when you book a flight, you can bring a companion with you for free. All right, so now, first of all, you might say, well, how many of you are going to fly Southwest 100 times this year? You're probably commuting to work at that point, right? You're someplace, it doesn't make sense for you to actually move there. So every morning you're driving to Milwaukee Airport, you're flying to Denver, and that's where your job is. And at night you fly home. Maybe you take 100 flights a year then, right? So now the Companion Pass, what does it really get you? Maybe you bring your spouse sometimes, that kind of thing, right? All right, so probably not going to take 100 flights. Now, 110,000 points, how can you get, and they have to be qualifying points. How do you get 110,000 qualifying points? Well, most of it's through credit cards, but you can't quite get enough points with the credit cards. So one of the other ways you can do this is through like partner hotels, for example. So I mentioned earlier that I went to New Orleans in, when was it? End of December, yeah, for a week. Well, I needed some, actually, I kind of got screwed over from this, but it ended up working out in the end. But I was trying to hit my 110,000 points as early in 2019 as possible. Okay, because the way the Companion Pass works is when you hit 110,000 points with Southwest, you get Companion Pass for the rest of that year plus all of the next year. So if I hit it in January, then I would get all of 2019 plus all of 2020, buy one, get one with Southwest. Okay? And by the way, it doesn't matter if you actually pay cash for your ticket. If I book a flight with points, I can bring my companion for free. So 2 people can fly for free on Southwest for 2 years. That's the punchline. Well, so I needed about a 15,000 point boost that I needed to post right after the first of the year. And Southwest has partner hotels. And so rather than transferring it to a hotel or rather than booking a hotel through Ultimate Rewards thing, I found a hotel. Well, you can go to Southwest Hotel's website and you can do a search, the dates where you're going, all that stuff. And what it does is it brings up like 50 pages worth of hotels. Now, let's say a hotel is for the week let's say it's $800 for the week. If it's a partner hotel for Southwest, that is likely, the baseline is that will get you 800 Southwest points. Okay? 800 Southwest points. Now, I need something like 15,000, so 800 is not making that much of a dent. It's better than nothing. Now, but it comes back with like 50 pages of results, with like 24 results per page. And as you flip through these pages manually, you start noticing that some of the hotels are on there multiple times. But the point value is different. You might see it for 800 points, the baseline in one place. You might see it for 4,000 points, some multiplier. And another link, same hotel, same room. Now, I manually went through and kept looking, and I found this room, the room that would have been 800, I saw it for 4,000, and I saw it for 25,000 points. So I booked that room for $800 with 25,000 points. I actually paid the $800, but I paid it with a credit card that has flexible spending points on it. So I then turned it in for a refund with points. So it didn't cost me anything, but I had to pay for it with flexible points. It's through a Barclay credit card, a whole different thing. So it didn't cost me anything, but I got 25,000 points. That's the punchline. Now, typically when you book hotels for like partner hotels, they usually take, a month and a half to post the points. It's not a real fast process. This place posted the points like the second I stepped out of the door. So the points hit my account before the end of the year. I needed them to post after January 1st. So they kind of screwed me over, but it worked out. I hit my 110,000 points. So now I have a companion pass for 2 years with Southwest, and anytime I want to fly, so like I go to Fort Lauderdale pretty often. We do cruises and stuff like that out of there, and I also have one living grandparent who is still down there. And so I go and visit her pretty often. So a round trip flight for me to Fort Lauderdale is something in the ballpark of, let's call it between 15 and 25,000 points, depending on if you're going at a good time or a bad time. But now my wife and I can both go for that amount. I booked the flight for 15,000 points. She's my companion. She goes for free. And we get an extra seat. Oh, yeah. So, it's a big video game that you kind of play and you mess with these points and stuff like that. But, take that example where I just happened to be flipping through that site looking for a hotel that was going to get me some points because I knew I wanted to hit the points early in the year. And I just happened to be flipping through manually and just stumbled upon, like on page 14 or something, that 25,000 point version of that hotel. Make sense? This was just pure luck. So I decided, you know what? What if I wrote a tool that automated that process? Because some humans will persevere, right? Every single time they want to go in, everybody wants a deal. It's like, look, I'll spend 6 hours and I'm going to click on every single next link. I'll do it. Okay, but even then you have to keep track of what was the best, and you got to write down the URL and all this stuff. So what the app does, and at some point I'll show it to you, because when we start writing our server side stuff, because I wrote this on the server because I created an API for it so some of our tools can use it. I used an automation tool called Selenium. That uses the Chrome WebDriver. So it's a headless web browser. And what it does is it loads up that page with your search criteria in it, and then it collects all of the hotels into objects. Then it manually hits the next button, waits for that page to load, collects all the hotels, manually hits the next button, goes through all the pages, then sorts the hotels based on points, and then dumps out the result. You can pick the one that had the highest, you got to look at cash versus point reward. Sometimes your number one thing might be some sort of private beach residence that you get 150,000 points, but it was $150,000 for the weekend or something like that. So that's probably out. But the point is that you hit the first thing where you're like looking at reasonable hotel price and ridiculous number of points. You get the URL, you click it, book the hotel, and you're done. So I wrote an automation tool to do that. That is something that a computer scientist can do. Now, can a human being do that? Sure. I did it. I manually went through and did that process myself. But wouldn't it be really nice, instead of me sitting there for, I probably actually only sat there for about 30 or 40 minutes doing it when I happened to stumble upon it. For all I know, there was even a better deal further in. But I was going crazy over 25,000 points. I doubt there was a better deal. Point is, there could have been. I stopped at like page 14 or whatever it was. But my app takes about 3 minutes to run and goes to every single page. And the only thing it needs to do is pause and wait for all the JavaScript to load. Then it screen scrapes the page, walks to what's called the DOM object, pulls the information out, clicks next, does it again, Once it hits the last page, it goes through and sorts them all, and then you have your list of all the things. So in 3 minutes, you've processed every single page, and you know you are getting the absolute best number of points for that. Because I noticed that in their system, they are randomly generating points when they have duplicate versions of hotels in the system. I've even noticed that if you run the search multiple times, sometimes you'll get a different number of points. And I also noticed that the URLs that you previously scraped still work.
So you pull the URL each time you do it,
So I can run it 50 times, collect all my hotels, sort them, and maybe the highest point thing was from 9 searches ago, let's say. That URL still works for that points, for that number of points.
Could you run like have it refresh on different pages, or do you need a separate IP address to like?
No, you can have it refreshed in different pages.
Okay, so that way you could pull like 100 URLs really quickly.
Well, I mean, the thing is, I'm walking their site, so I'm collecting the. There, I can actually show it
Well,
to
I'm
you.
just saying, like you said, you refresh it, and sometimes it'll regenerate as something different. So if you just kept refreshing it on that, even say just the first page, like eventually those points might be different, correct?
So, like, here's Southwest Hotels site. So I'm going to click this guy, Southwest Hotels. So this is how you would manually do it. So let's say that I'm going to go to New Orleans. That's where my thing was. So we're going to go to New Orleans. And my check-in date, we're going to say, is the 18th. And I'm going to come back on the 25th, so I'll stay there a week. 2 adults, 1 room. Hit search. It's going to bring up some results. I'll scroll to the bottom, so it takes a little bit of time for this to load. It's actually still loading stuff down below. See how this right now, it's generating reward points. Okay, it just actually finished. It's JavaScript actually, you have to make sure the pause is there so it gets it. Now if I scroll all the way down here to the bottom, I have a whole bunch of next pages up to page 16 here. But once you get to page 16, there's more pages. So I keep like the breadcrumbs. Okay. So what I do is, you go through here, you see each of these hotels. So, oh my gosh, look at this one. That's actually a pretty good deal right on top. So $1,600 for 7 nights. It's not cheap, but that's 29,000 points. It's a pretty good deal. If you were going to stay there, if you were willing to spend $1,600, 29,000 points for your trouble is a decent deal. Okay, but you can kind of go through here, and you can get to one that kind of finally shows you a point total that, here, this is still a pretty expensive hotel. For a week, you're looking for maybe like $700, $100 a night-ish. That's kind of what you're looking for, right? So you can kind of go through here. So these are still pretty expensive hotels. Notice this one, this is 1683. The Southwest points for it is 1683. Okay, but notice also it's a different color. So these guys are actually tagged differently. So you have to walk what's called the DOM object for the HTML document and look for the different possible tags that could be for each one. So my program reads in this hotel. I get its name. I get this URL. I get the price. I get the points. Then I go in, I move down the DOM object. I grab the next one, so on and so forth. And then it comes all the way to the bottom of the screen. It manually hits this next button, loads the page again. It re-grabs, it grabs the next set. See, it's doing the rapid reward points. You have to wait for this thing to finish. Rinse, lather, repeat. Just keep doing that. So it took my program something in the ballpark about 3 minutes or so on average to run and hit every single page. Where if I was doing this manually and looking at every single thing on every single page, this is going to start getting old pretty quick.
And so what you do is so if it's like $1,600, you use a new credit card, earning points for that.
You could use it to hit the minimum spend on your next card, or like I said, like a card like the Barclay card, it gives you when you spend for the business one, when you spend 5,000 points, $5,000 in 3 months, you get 70,000 flex points. You'll actually have 80,000 because you get 2 points per dollar spent. So you'll have 80,000 points. That could be redeemed for $800 worth of travel, but it's flexible. So what you do is you actually pay for the hotel on the credit card, and then you go onto their site and say, I want to redeem my 80,000 points for this $800 purchase. And then it was free. But then you got to go do it again, so it's not like the best use of points, but if you really care about that $800 in that particular case, you can make it free. Okay. Otherwise, like my Sapphire Reserve card gets triple points for travel, so I could put $800 on there. That'll get me 2,400 points for that. Plus, I just got whatever the 25,000 or however many points it ended up being. So you got to do whatever makes sense for you. But if you just want everything to be free, sometimes you're not using points in the smartest way possible. But free is free. Just go get more points.
So when you're having Selenium traverse the DOM, do you tell it, like, do you manipulate the cookies? Because a lot of these sites will throw cookies into cache, and if they see you coming back, they're going to jack up the price.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, because you don't have to do it because you're not a real browser.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think I actually have cookies turned off.
That's what I mean.
On the headless browser. I don't delete them or anything.
Okay, but you're just
I don't recall. Try to remember that when I actually show it to you. Ask me again, and we'll look at it. But I don't recall doing anything with cookies.
And then is it hard to maintain non-brittle code, because if the web developer Southwest decides to change how they're naming elements in the store?
Yeah, you got to go back. You got to go change
Okay,
it.
so I was curious. Is that what
Yeah.
you got to do? You just got to go.
Hasn't happened to me yet, but I've only had this program doing this scanning for a couple months now.
But I mean, even a couple months, you should have seen it.
And actually, I wrote this program while I was on my cruise. So I was on my free cruise, hanging out at the wine bar, writing this program. And I could have actually probably gotten a bunch of free wine doing it, because I had internet on Royal Caribbean is like really good. It's like a cable modem speed. You're in the middle of the ocean. You have like you can stream Netflix, but it's expensive on there. So a lot of people don't get it. Well, so I was at the wine bar, and I had I had my phone was actually my internet connection. I had to plug into my laptop through USB, but then I had another machine. I had my Surface Pro there that was actually giving a Wi-Fi hotspot to the people in the wine bar. So I was like, I could have handed out passwords in exchange for glasses of wine and stuff like that. It totally worked out. But so these are like fun little projects, and like you said, it might only last for a certain period of time, and then they change their site or something like that. So part of what you want to do is I build in pretty big pauses into the program to
You're waiting for all the agents.
fully wait for that stuff to finish, but at the same time, not so it doesn't look like a DOS attack. On their servers.
That's the other thing.
You
P hitting is hard.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you kind of make it look like it's a human being who's clicking next, but they just happen to be able to scroll through the page pretty quickly and process those hotels, that kind of stuff. So little tools like that. You find something that, yes, you can do manually, but can I automate this? Can I make my life easier by writing an automation tool that does this? Some of these things, like initially when we start writing some stuff, we're going to be doing like little, almost like stupid things that really don't need to be automated, but let's automate it, just to kind of get the ball rolling, see how this could work. And then we'll start getting a little bit more advanced with the things and stuff like that. And then you'll see how you can apply that to all sorts of different problems. Okay? So, kind of the punchline there. Let's see. And then ultimately you're going to book reward travel. So you find the best deal, then you transfer your points from the correct, there's a whole bunch of different reward systems. So like for instance, you have Citi thank you points. That's one reward system. You have Chase Ultimate Reward points. You have an American Express reward portal. Those are probably your three big ones. You have SPG, which is like Marriott cards, and that's kind of going away. It used to be pretty good. It's not as good anymore. So those are kind of your big three main portals for points. Then you have credit cards that give you specific points for a certain airline, like American Airlines or United Airlines cards, things like that. So now you're locked into that particular airline, because usually if you have United points, you can't transfer United points to American or another airline. Now, most of those airlines, though, are in alliances. So, for instance, like British Airway and United are in the One World Alliance. Okay, so if I have British Airway points, I can book United flights with those points. But I have to book them through British Air's portal. I don't transfer points to United and book through United. I actually book a United flight using British Airways points. Does that make sense? So your most powerful position to be in is when you have points in one of the reward portals, like Ultimate Reward Points or Thank You Points or American Express, which have a bunch of travel partners, transfer partners, where you can move it out to those partners. And the best bang for your point, if you will, is going to come from airline transfers. Hotels aren't as good, but if you have Chase Ultimate Reward Points, the best hotel transfer partner is Hyatt. So you can get a pretty nice Hyatt hotel for about 5,000 points a night. And so you can get a lot of nights for not a lot of points. It's kind of the punchline. And then when you start thinking about like companion pass and where Southwest flies, you could basically go down to Mexico for a month for the points that it would take for maybe 2 credit cards. Just go live in Mexico for 30 days in a hotel. And it costs you nothing except feeding yourself, what you were going to do when you were here. Plus you probably won't eat that much after the first couple of days when you get dysentery. All right. Yeah, so these are kind of the go-to moves for travel hacking. What we want to look at is what aspects of this can we automate. All right. So we'll kind of go through here. Some of this I've already talked about, so I'm going to just kind of skim through this because we just talked about it at a high level. So sign-up bonuses of credit cards is the best way. Sometimes you get category-specific multipliers on credit cards. So like, for instance, whenever I eat out, I use my Chase Sapphire Reserve card because I get triple points. Whenever I get gas, I use one of my Amex cards. That gets me 5 times points for gas, unless I'm working on the minimum spend for a card, because that always trumps everything else. So if I have random card X and I'm trying to hit $3,000 on in the next 3 months, I use that for everything except dining and travel. So anytime I go to the grocery store, anytime I go to the gas station, the movie theater, whatever it is, I'm using that card to hit that minimum spend. Partner businesses like dining hotels, like Southwest Hotels, that kind of stuff. You can also invite friends and family. That gets you some points on your card. Not anywhere near what like a sign-up bonus is, but it's a perk. And it helps them. So, the idea is we already talked about this. Don't spend the money, don't spend money you don't have, right? So just because you need to spend $1,000 to get 50,000 points, don't just go find something that's $1,000 to buy. Do your normal spending, and if you can't hit $1,000 with that normal spending, look at alternative ways of hitting that $1,000. Don't just go buy something because you think you need to hit it, because that now has lost you money. Make sense? All right. So we talked about personal business cards, blah, blah, blah. So how do you hit minimum spends? I'm going to show you something really cool. So there's this website here, and actually let me put up, I'm going to put it up on Slack. Is that the one? No, this is the one down here. So use this link because it will benefit me and it won't hurt you. All right, so this is a site called Rebate Key. And I'm going to show you how this works. This is ridiculous. So first of all, up here, you see it shows what my next check is. It is $110. So this is one legal way you can use to hit your minimum spend, plus you get free stuff. All right, how does this work? So I'm going to just hit refresh just to make sure this thing is fully refreshed. And we'll actually go through and we'll do an actual purchase. All right, so let's find something. Let's see. Okay, so, the point of this site is you have sellers of items from several different portals on the internet, including Amazon. It seems like most of them are Amazon, who want people to buy their product so the number of sales they have goes up. So it shows up higher in Amazon search and things like that. So they're willing to give you a rebate on that product for you purchasing it. And many of the rebates, so I have the percentage rebate set as my search criteria. So for instance, I can get a bride-to-be sash bachelorette party decoration kit Normally $10, I can get it for nothing. So the way this works is I go and buy it from Amazon for $10, and in 35 days they'll send me a check for $10. Hence, it didn't cost me anything, but guess what? I spent $10 towards a minimum spend. Okay, but I don't want this guy. But you'll see there's lots of pills. So we get here cranberry concentrate for urinary tract stuff, 100% rebate. What's this guy? $10. Let's get this guy. Okay, so yeah, this is where it's at, people. Okay, so I'm going to click buy product. Okay, it's telling me my instructions. I'm going to just agree to this. Like, I'm cool with that. I want these cranberry pills, and I'm going to pay $10 for it. But in 35 days, you're going to give me $10 back, so it's not going to cost me anything. I'll click on buy product here. Takes me to this page right now. I'll just click buy now. I'll place my order, $10. I just spent $10. This pops up. Here's my order number. Then I'll go back to this page where it's waiting for me to put my order ID in, paste it in there. I'll hit confirm purchase. And there it is. So now we have that guy in there. We should see that my expected check number, it should go up here in a second to $120. Once that guy gets approved, it takes maybe 2 or 3 minutes. But that'll go up to $120, which is my next check that I'm going to get. So in 35 days, I'll get a check for even more money once that gets approved, because I have to double check to make sure I actually bought the product and that kind of stuff. But so in 35 days, they're going to give me that $10 back. And in 2 days, I'm going to get some cranberry pills.
That's what I was gonna ask. So you get to keep those?
Oh yeah, they're mine. In fact, I have to keep them. I'm not allowed to sell them. I probably can give them away, but you have to agree not to resell them and stuff. So like the other day, I got one of those grabbers. I got a $10 like. I got a $10 super. Yeah, so you just get all this free crap.
FDA approved straws.
Yeah.
Save the turtles. Let's buy some.
Hey, somewhere in here you have like there's a really funny one in here. It's like here's my grabber. Look at that.
What would prevent you from buying like 10 of the cranberry pills?
I don't think there actually is. There might be a limit of like 3. It'll cut you off at some point. But also keep in mind, like for instance, notice not all of these are 100% off. Here's like a 60% rebate. So you can buy the socket seat. I don't know what that guy's all about. But I'm not spending $50 on something that that I don't want when they're only going to give me $20. Well, they're going to give me $30 back, I guess. So I only buy the free stuff. I'll lay out the $10 or the $100 to work towards a minimum spend to get free crap. Even if you're not working towards a minimum spend, maybe you just want the free crap, right? So, I bought this. I did spend this. I actually have this power toothbrush at home. So for 17 cents, I got these Oral-B brush heads. These are like $20. 17 cents I got those for. It wasn't even worth them swiping the card. The fees for the card was more than that. Yeah, there's all sorts of stuff in here. I can get it.
Why do people put stuff on here?
Because there's sellers who want to change their position in the search results on like Amazon, because the more of your product that has sold, and this is my understanding of how it works, the more of your product that is sold, the higher you'll show up in search results.
So but then they're just giving you their product for free.
Yeah, but realistically, so like here, what is this? Pure organic moringa leaf powder, all natural, anti-aging, whatever. But chances are, whatever's in this bottle probably cost them $0.25. All right, this is probably not a real expensive product for them. They're almost 100% profit. So the fact that in this case they're still getting $1.89 from me is probably almost break even, and yet they're getting a sale out of it.
Now, could you even, since it's Amazon, you can return anything?
But I think you're right. But I think that they probably, the reason you have to put in the order number, I'm guessing they check. So even
if it was after 35 days and they pay you out?
Maybe, because technically Amazon gives you 30 days to return. My gut feeling is you're probably playing with fire there. And as good of a deal as this rebate thing is, you might as well not screw them over, since it was free anyways. So his idea is like buy something for $30, they pay you $30 and return and get your $30 back. Now you got $60, and you have nothing. But
So
just buy the thing twice, get your $60.
And this will take you there. You buy it, and then you have to enter an ID.
Yeah, you just saw me do it.
Oh.
Yeah, as soon as my purchase was done, I had my order number. I just copied that and came back over to Rebate Key. It was waiting for me to paste it. I pasted it, submitted it, and then it says in 35 days you'll get your check. So use my affiliate link I put up on there. And you could apply for the affiliate program, but you have to have done enough volume for them to accept you into the affiliate program. So I've spent thousands of dollars on this thing just getting free crap. At any point you come to my house, I just have Amazon boxes all over the place. I got cranberry pills and wheat thistle. And I just have random stuff. I got just buckets of like creatine or something. There's the bodybuilder powder stuff.
Really?
Oh yeah. So just stuff, yeah. I got zebra testosterone. Oh, this is a good one. Look, the female urination device. 91% off. I'm not paying $1 for that. So, it's a pretty fun site.
I mean, that's not on top of Amazon yet.
Yeah, so, I mean, I'd encourage you to use this site heavily to get the stuff that you get 100% rebate on, right? Because, I mean, if you have a reward card or something like that, you're getting, free points. So even if I'm not working towards a minimum spend, if I spend $10, I got 10 points. It's 10 free points, as long as I'm willing to wait 35 days for my refund, because you are outlaying the money for that period of time. So you got to play that game and decide how important it is to you. But, punchline is this is kind of a cool thing, isn't it? I mean, who doesn't need just thousands and thousands of cranberry pills? I've never had a urinary tract infection. This stuff's great.
But when you do,
It's like, what do you mean this isn't FDA approved?
oh my God.
A product of Nigeria. You open the cranberry pill bottle up, it's just live grasshoppers. Like, still get a rebate.
Well, you just make Christmas easy for me.
Just make sure you use my affiliate link so I
You're
get
gonna
points.
give cranberry pills? Or the sash?
I guess this is on recording, but it's still funny because
You're saying my wife would be like,
I should buy the female urination thing and send it to my mom. It's the gift that keeps on giving. So, yeah. So, I mean, there's all sorts of cool sites like this. I like this one because, I mean, who doesn't want free crap, right? And it's just a great deal, especially if you have, I mean, this would be less of a good deal if you didn't have Amazon Prime and you didn't get free shipping. But I think a lot of people already have Amazon Prime. In fact, actually, can't students get it for free or next to free?
Yeah, next to.
Yeah.
I just got it, and
Yeah, it's like super cheap for students. But I mean, I pay for it anyways. I order normal stuff off of Amazon to make it worth it anyway. So the fact that shipping isn't costing me anything, and then they're giving me all my money back, it's like a no-brainer. I just get pills. I feed it to the area dogs. Here, have a cranberry pill. Put a bowl of creatine out there for them. But there's all sorts of different sites that kind of do similar things. There's another cool site, I'll find the name for it. It's like called Kira or something like that. I haven't done it. It seems a little bit, I don't know about sketchy. I think it's for a good cause, but the way it works is there are, you can give like short-term loans to like good causes. It's almost like GoFundMe, but you get your money back plus, sometimes it's plus interest. I think usually you just get your money back within these either like 3 months or 6 months or 9 months, depending on how long the loan is for. So you can loan, let's say $25. You can loan more than that, but just as an example. You can loan $25 and in 6 months you'll get the $25 back. And they say like 97.9% of them pay back, whatever. So you're helping some good cause. A lot of times it's, some impoverished nation or, group of people who are trying to, give themselves food or something like that, like reasonable causes. But you got to spend $25 on a credit card, and in 6 months you get $25 back, as an example. So that's another way you could meet a minimum spend, but feels a little, I know people who've done it and it's worked for them, but I don't want to outlay money for six months or more with the hope that I'll get it back when I can just get a rebate in 35 days and have stuff, right? So, and then I can have free handouts in class. It's like whoever gets this question right gets a toy out of the grab bag, and I can pull out cranberry pills. Look what you got there, little Johnny. Our teacher's handing out non-FDA approved cranberry pills. It's a bucket filled with grasshoppers. So that's one thing. That's pretty cool. So I would say use that heavily. Another thing, and I'll go ahead and put this link up as well. So this site is it's called Plastic, Plastiq, and this works best with MasterCards. So for instance, whenever I just got a city business MasterCard yesterday, where I get like 70,000 points or something after I spend 5,000 in 3 months. So I use Plastic I pay my mortgage and both my car leases on credit card. These are things you usually send a check for, right? But I can pay them with Plastic on credit card, so it works a lot like bill pay for your bank. And if you use that link, it actually will benefit you and me, because this will give you a percentage of money that goes fee-free. So let's say you have a $1,000 bill you're going to pay. They're going to charge you, it's like 2.5% interest or something like that for that, so it's $25 or whatever. And the first, I think, when you click this link, I think you'll get $500 of fee-free money. So you'll actually only pay fees on 500 of those dollars, something like that. But the idea is, so if you're paying your mortgage with a credit card just to pay your mortgage with a credit card, you probably shouldn't be paying fees on your mortgage. You probably should just write a check. But if you're trying to meet the minimum spend on a credit card, it's worth the $25 fee for me to get a 75,000 points, right? So it usually takes me 2 months to hit 5,000 with that, between my mortgage and our two car leases. So by the halfway through the second month, I have my application in for my next MasterCard that I'm going to use as my next card for hitting that minimum spend. That way, at any point in time, I'm always paying my mortgage and my car leases with a credit card, so I am working towards a minimum spend. And I'm paying the little fee, but that little fee is way less than I would be paying in fees. And if you play this game where you share this link, you'll get bonus fee-free cash, plus the person you're sharing it with gets bonus fee-free cash. So it's another good way to hit minimum payments. Again, I'm not giving you financial advice, but do not, human to human, run up your credit card bill paying for your car. That would be hard to pay off. Always pay off your credit card bills. Okay, don't get yourself into some sort of fiasco to get what looked like on paper a free flight to Brazil, but actually ended up turning you into bankruptcy. All right? This is a video game. You play it for fun. Don't max out your credit cards with money that you can't afford to pay back. Okay? Don't spend money you don't have. Get free rebate cranberry pills. Isn't that site like the coolest site ever? Yeah, I just sit there at night and I just buy crap.
That's so like buy something so random that it shows up if your wife opens it and she's like, what?
So you get like boxes a day? Like,
oh yeah.
Like, oh my
Do they ring the doorbell at your house?
I don't think so. They just leave it out.
Stop ringing it at us, but that's what we have dog.
The mail center's about to hate me.
There's going to be a for those of you who follow Mr. Gonzalez on Facebook, there will be a picture of him wearing that bridesmaid sash soon. Probably him popping cranberry bills too. That site is awesome, isn't it?
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I love that site. You just get random crap. And at first, when I first started doing that, my wife didn't know I was doing this. I would just order this like junk that I just knew she wouldn't like, moisturizers and crap. Like, what's this thing? What's it? A 1-pass hot iron activated? What is this? Temporary smoothing cream? Hey, I don't even know what that is, but I would like buy it. That's $18. I get it for free. But I would like buy that. I like wrap it and stuff and give it to her like as a present. Like I was so thoughtful. What the heck is this? Everybody relax. Everybody needs a bottle of smoothing cream. Where's my... Oh, all right, I just got to click here. One thing you do need to be careful of on these is sometimes, where it'll say, like, apply this coupon, you get 20% off or something. Never do that. Always pay top price for it because the person who's selling it doesn't want to pay the coupons or anything. So just make sure there's no checkbox for coupon. I'm just going to say buy now.
What are you going to do with that?
Give it to Tabby, gift wrapped. Take a video. And I copy my number here. And then we'll go back to this guy right here, and he's waiting for me to enter. He's waiting for me to enter my number in, so I'll just paste that guy in there. I'll hit confirm my purchase. And there it is.
I'd be so pissed. What's wrong with you? Then what's he got?
Yeah, I probably have an email that came in that's saying that, because it's at night, they haven't confirmed it yet. Let's see. Rebate key.
Follows a page or a person on Facebook?
He's a person. It's at Real Mr. Gonzalez. He had to apply for celebrity status, and he got approved. All right, so let's kind of get through the rest of these so we can take a little break. So you got these little kind of cool things that you can use to hit minimum spends, so you don't just go out and spend money on stupid stuff, or you do spend money on stupid stuff that you get all that money back though. There's also something called manufactured spending, where you can spend money without spending money. I would say that banks do frown upon that. It's not illegal, but it's borderline ethical. Kind of the idea of that would be, let's say that Shadi needs to hit $1,000 by the end of this month. Otherwise, you won't hit your minimum spend and you lose all those points. What I can do is I can maybe invoice you for my company. You pay me $1,000 with your credit card. My credit card company is going to take the 2.5% interest, whatever. I give you back cash minus whatever the credit card company charged me, and then you use that cash plus $5 or whatever to pay your credit card bill. And now you hit your $1,000. So technically, then you hit your minimum spend without spending very much real money, but you would want that to be as like a last resort. If you're doing that too often, you're probably getting too many credit cards. That's the punchline. And you also have to consider how much are you going to travel. If you're looking at if you're traveling once or twice a year and you want to kind of save up for a big trip, you don't have to do this at kind of like a crazy professional level. Get yourself, try to get up maybe 200,000 points in a single year, and you can fly somewhere round trip first class and stay at a nice hotel. The whole trip will be free for a week or something. And if you want longer, then you just get more points. But you can do this at a fairly like normal person level, where I kind of am crazy. So I'm just like constantly collecting points. I'm trying to hit 3 million points for this coming year. I hit 1.5 million last year. So I'm doubling my last year's. So it's...
Do your taxes get 1,000 points?
Huh?
Do your taxes and get 1,000 points?
Well, also, related to that, if you owe money for taxes, you can put that on a credit card. You can pay your taxes with a credit card.
Oh my
Yeah, and fine, they charge you a little fee, but if you're working towards a minimum spend, usually that fee is negligible compared to the value you're getting in that from those points.
Do points expire?
Most of the systems, the answer is no. The maybe a little bit longer answer is as long as the card remains active, the points don't expire. But do double check. Different systems might have expiration points, or sometimes you need to spend some number of points in the year in order to keep all your points, or you need to earn points in order for your points not to go away. Kind of encourage you to keep using the card. But as far as I'm aware of right now, any of the major three, as long as the card's active, your points are fine.
So ideally, as soon as you get that bonus, open up another one.
Yeah.
Because like
Yeah. The short answer to travel hacking is anytime, whenever you're spending money, you should be swiping a credit card. Anything you would have spent cash on, swipe a credit card. Anything you would have spent a debit card on, swipe a credit card. Always pay your card off. Always, always, always pay your card off each month. But you should always be swiping a credit card. You should always be working towards a minimum spend. If at any point in time you're swiping a credit card and it didn't go towards a minimum spend, you're doing it wrong. I spent 25 minutes, actually spent longer than that, I spent an hour and a half on the phone this afternoon helping me. I mean, I was doing other things while I was doing it, but I paid for the second half of a cruise the other day, going on another cruise in March, and I put it on a card because I had to pay it that I had points for, but I actually I have a new card that just came in today that I have to hit 5,000 spend in 3 months, and the cruise was the second half of the payment was like $2,400. So I called them up. I had to wait to get a person on the phone from like the travel agency who can then talk to the cruise company to refund the last payment and recharge it on the new card. So I've already hit half my spend on the new card. But I mean, so sometimes you have to play that game because I was hoping that card would have arrived in the mail before I had to make that payment, but it didn't. But, sometimes you just got to do those things. So we already talked about this. You have airline partners, you have travel reward partners, like the hotels thing, stuff like that. The same flight isn't always the same price on different booking sites. So I mentioned like Air Canada, I would have paid more in Air Canada points for that flight to Brazil than I would in Singapore Airline points. So I had to look at that same flight from 7 or 8 different angles to determine which airline was which was the flight I wanted and which airline do I use to book that flight. And then it goes even a step further. Which airline that I have points that transfer to do I use to book that flight? So that's the advantage of having bulk points in multiple programs. Then it's a game like, okay, well, do I use thank you points for this? Or I use Chase Ultimate Reward points? I only dip into my Chase Ultimate Reward points if that's my only option. Chase Ultimate Reward points are like gold. Because that's my Southwest piggy bank. They're the only company that transfers to Southwest 1-to-1. So I buy one, get one, where I don't even buy one for Southwest, so 2 people fly for free forever. And now Southwest is getting ready to fly to Hawaii. So, oh yeah, they just did their first test flight today. You can't book it yet, but they had a flight from San Diego or something to Hawaii. So I'll be going to Hawaii at least once this year, if not 5 times. I can switch companions up to 5 times a year, Shadi. So if you stay on the good list, I can pay points and you can be my +1. You're carrying the bags. Yeah, my golf clubs. That's the other nice thing about Southwest. You can bring 2 free bags and golf clubs, even though it's like a big, weird shape that counts as a normal bag. They don't do anything, nothing funny. Yeah, I don't have to wait in line with Southwest. I have A-list preferred, so I just go right to the front of the line, because I fly for free with them so much.
Have you been to Hawaii?
I've been to Hawaii, but not with Southwest, obviously. But Tabby doesn't like it there because of the size of the bugs and the lizards. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she doesn't like lizards.
I'm looking at my Hawaii frozen iguanas volleyball time.
Okay, so we're going to take a break here in a second, but the slide here is, what does this have to do with programming? I've kind of already alluded to it as we kind of went through this, is as a computer programmer, I mean, this is kind of a fun topic that obviously is a hobby of mine, so that's why I kind of attach it to this, but hopefully it seems like it's a kind of a fun a fun topic for all of you, whether or not you're going to really take advantage of it and travel that much. Even if you get one flight, if you were going to fly to one place this year and you get to fly there for free, then you maybe paid for this class or something like that. But the punchline is what does this have to do with programming? It's a system that we can do manually, but there are components of it that we can automate. And as a computer programmer, we can identify which aspects can be automated and look at solutions for automating it. Make some sense? All right, so let's take about a 10-minute, let's take a 10-minute break. We'll try to get out a little bit before 10, but we'll see. Let's take a 10-minute break, then we'll come back and we'll do our last run when we're actually going to do some coding stuff.